Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IRSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Jamie University. It is Tuesday, April 4th, and we are going to talk about Jamie open practice that took place on Saturday. Jamie was in attendance. We are going to go over basically all things that he observed from that practice. We're going to do a little buy or sell exercise based on what he saw, what he observed, what's going on at quarterback, what's going on at wide receiver, and all those other things. And so we're going to cover all bases, and I'm going to make Jamie put down a marker on some things that are way too soon. And this is all subject to change. Probably, you know what? Well, maybe we'll revisit too at the end of spring, and we'll kind of go back, because this was our only look at the team during their, a full open practice that the media gets before the spring game. So we're going to have to go over that. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You may have noticed that we are wearing ESQ shirts, Jamie. We are wearing the bamboo shirts that Ga Wang has sent to us, that he has in his shop in North LaSalle Street, 180 North LaSalle Street. And I got to tell you, Jamie, we were sent these. They said, put them on, give the full review. And I have to say, Jamie, this is an unbelievable product. This is unbelievable. I am so glad that we are repping something that I can actually give full marks to. So Jamie is wearing an undershirt. I see. I am not wearing an undershirt, and I don't need an undershirt. This shirt feels so comfortable. It is hugging my skin. It is massaging my skin. It's stretchy. It's light. It's just great, man. Tell me how you feel, Jamie.
I believe this kids say no cap, right? No lie. No cap. It's nice to say, obviously they're a sponsor of the show, but it's pretty much the comfiest dress shirt I've ever worn in my life. I mean, not even pretty much. It definitely is. I'm not a big dress shirt guy unless, for special occasions kind of thing. I don't have to go into the office anymore like I used to do in previous jobs. So I don't have to wear dress shirts every day. But you know what? If I had to wear this shirt every day, I wouldn't complain. This is a pretty darn good dress shirt. It's super comfortable. It's super light. It's very breathable. I think it's something that I would suggest everyone try it. Get down to ESQ. Obviously, you can order it it's to your specifications in terms of what and how it fits, because we gave our measurements and everything. And man, this is it's an unbelievable shirt. I'm extremely comfortable. It feels like I could be just wearing just a regular long sleeve shirt, and it doesn't feel it doesn't feel at all like I'm suited up and uncomfortable or whatever. I feel extreme comfort.
Yeah, and this is the shirt. So every time you see Marcus Freeman on a recruiting visit, like an in-home, and you see him with the dress shirts and everything, he's wearing this shirt. This is what he is wearing. Okay, and I think the thing that people would get very frustrated by is Marcus Freeman's always wearing really nice Under Armour hoodies and that sort of thing, and you can't get them. You can't get what he's wearing. This you can buy what Marcus Freeman is wearing. Okay, it's crafted from high quality bamboo fabric, the softest and most comfortable shirt you ever put on. It's not only more sustainable than cotton, it feels cooler, has stretch. The stretch is fantastic, Jamie. It's not so it's form fitting, but you can still move around. So a lot of the kind of form fitting shirts, you feel all tight, and you don't feel like you can move around, you can do whatever. So that's really nice. Odor and wrinkle resistant, and it's machine washable, Jamie. So for ISD listeners, we're going to give you 23% off from now until the end of spring football at ISD Spring. So go to ISD or go to ESQclothing.com, type in ISD Spring, and you can get 23% off this exact shirt and whatever Jamie's wearing. Whole selection. It's great stuff. So you're going to want to get in on that. It's a great one. And we've got Mike Lebowski. Mike Lebowski is in the chat, and he says, plug for ESQ, was in Chicago recently and couldn't resist a Notre Dame bomber God and team were wonderful. So, yay, plug for that. That was unprompted. We did not know. Mike Lebowski did not know we were going to be wearing shirts.
Yeah.
So that works out very nicely. So go check it out. And so everyone, thank you for joining the show. Hit the like, hit subscribe button, hit the notification bell. CFB Hertz is here. Pops McGee is celebrating his UConn Huskies winning a national championship last night. So congrats to Pops McGee. S. Gomez is here, of course. Let's see. Michael Campbell is in about some offense questions, so we'll get in on that as well. CFB Hertz has a nice, easy one for us to start. Which of the following best describes our current offense? Garbage fire, dumpster fire, tire fire, or forest fire?
I would say none of the above.
None of the above.
None of the above.
Listen, here's the thing with the offense, and I'll just. So the media talked about how the offense was bad. And when I say
no,
they
weren't good.
I mean you guys. They weren't good. They had a bad practice, right? So that's what they're going to say, right? You can't go to a practice, see them be bad, and it's like, well, they're terrible.
Not going to lie.
Like, you got to tell what happened. So they didn't have a good practice, but that's fine, right? It's spring. And I think a lot of the time with spring, you have to understand that the media catches them. You get one open practice. You catch them on a particular day, whatever they happen to be working on that day. Right.
Yeah.
If the defense, you brought up on Power Hour that was on yesterday, that if the defense is running pressure schemes and they're running packages and the offense is just kind of doing their stuff, it's going to look bad. Right. And you guys talked about how Sam Hartman didn't have a ton of time. He had a lot of trouble in the pocket and that sort of thing. And so, look, it's going to cause problems. And then you coincide that with the receivers having a poor day catching the ball, and you're going to have a bad practice. And that's the way it goes. But no. In terms of units, not gonna take a big. I'm not gonna take much from that. What is your opinion on that, Jamie?
Yeah, I don't think I don't think it's enough to overreact to one day specifically. Like, I think if the defense was playing base all day and they couldn't run the ball, first of all, they didn't even really try to run the ball, right?
Yeah.
They didn't try to run the ball, so that was obviously not what they were working on the day. Yeah, and I think in spring, that is the time when, anyone who has played college football and knows that when you're playing in spring ball, during that time, when you first start introducing a lot of pressure packages, usually doesn't go good. And the fact that I think Michael Carmody, who was running with the ones who, I had heard there that he's been the best guard. He's been the best guard this spring. So he got hurt at the beginning of the practice, and you don't have him in, and you see some younger guys having to come in and play there, and I think you see a lot of ups and downs and a lot of struggles there, and that was primarily had a lot to do with it. And plus, anyone will tell you defense is always ahead of offense. Yeah, in spring, in fall camp, they always are. They always are, because there's just so much more to know. In terms of what assignments, adjustments, all of that kind of stuff that, and I think being at year two, and it's something that we kind of talked about before, that the defense was going to look faster, and they did, right? They did look faster. They looked like a lot more comfortable than the offense in that time. So I think that had a lot to do with it. I think you would want to see some more plays from the offense. I'm not going to, sugarcoat that part. You want to see them make a lot more plays than they did. But in saying that, I don't think it's enough to overreact to and think like, oh man, the offense is in trouble.
Does it? So we had talked in previous shows about, we were concerned about the size of Carmody, right? Yeah. So Westwood Manor asked the question, is that concerning that the best guard is undersized? Seems like it could be a red flag. What's your opinion? Like, do you like? I liked Carmody as in 2021, like early. Like I thought before he got hurt, I thought he did a pretty good job. I liked him in the spring of 2021. It's the size thing. It's not an ability thing. So, are you concerned by that? Like, does that? Because there is an open question. Like, can he get big enough? Like, is this even, if he looks good, it doesn't kind of matter. If he's going to be 280, that's not going to work out. So does it concern you? Like, how do you feel about that?
I am concerned about it. If he's 280 pounds for the season, that's a major concern. Right. And also too, like, I mean, obviously what you're listed at and whatever, we know that it's not always accurate, but he was listed, in his freshman sophomore year over 290.
Yeah.
So why did he lose that weight? I don't understand that. That's just like, it doesn't really make sense. So it's like, is there something else going on that is causing him to do that? And everything I've heard is like, he's not a guy that like, because sometimes too, you're like, how much does this guy love football? That always comes into question when you're like, oh, this guy's struggling to put on weight. It's like, maybe he doesn't care that much, whatever. But I've heard that's the opposite of with Carmody. He cares. Yeah. Like he actually really enjoys football. So it's a total mystery to me why he hasn't been able to put on and keep on the weight. I mean, it is a concern. It is a concern, and it wouldn't be a concern against most teams, but when you're going to go against Ohio State, and I mean, they're going to have guys that are, 300 pounds plus that you're going to have to block, right? That inside. And, when you go against Clemson, you're going to go against some big dudes inside. That's where it's really kind of concerning, because it's, you can handle most teams, but it's the top teams, right, that you're worried about. So I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see where he is at in the fall. It sucks. I didn't really get to watch him that much, right? So I didn't really get to see him, because I guess like even before they went 11-11, he wasn't in the he wasn't practicing with that. So I don't know what to think. I guess we'll see if he's healthy and available for the spring game, and kind of see where he's at. But yeah, I mean, to me, it is definitely like, it's something notable that you got to watch. You have to watch and see where they're at.
Yeah. All right. We're going to get into the buy or sell section here, but I want to kind of let everybody know a lot of this is, so Jamie saw the practice, right? And so you can base off of, a lot of your comments on that. But also, I think being there, you get to talk to people and you can get a sense for what's been happening, right? So when I ask kind of a bigger picture question, it's not just the practice. There's some other things that I think you had some conversations with people, not really off the record, just kind of things you heard, right? And so we can kind of talk about that. So that's where we're coming from or where Jamie's going to come from on a lot of this analysis. It's like, hey, I talked to people as well. It hasn't just been, what I saw or what he saw at the practice. So, all right, first buy or sell question. You going to buy or sell that Tyler Buchner can legitimately win the quarterback job? Do you buy or sell that?
I'm going to buy it. I do think I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Hartman. I mean, I would say if you asked me today who's going to be the quarterback, I would say it's Sam Hartman.
Yeah.
But like Matt said, if anyone read Matt Freeman's practice report, and he asked me if this was too wild of a take to do, and I said no, I don't think so. Like if you just watched that practice, you would say, and didn't know anything about the team, you would have said Tyler Buchner was the better quarterback in the day. He should be the starter. And obviously it's one day, and and the offense didn't have a great day overall, but he was better. He was quite a bit better that day, right? So that's something that has to be taken into account. And if he's stacking a bunch of days where he is the better player, especially because if he's better in the pocket and better at making decisions and all these kind of stuff, and you're not even taking into account the fact that his running ability, because he has something that it's not that Hartman can run, but he's not the same dynamic that you'll get from Buchner. So that matters. It definitely matters. So, I mean, I'm going to say he has a shot. He has a shot, and the way that they kind of split the reps, him and Hartman were getting the reps with like the top guys, right? Yeah. So there was a clear, there wasn't like a clear gap between him and Hartman and Buchner, where there was a clear gap between Hartman, Buchner, and then Angeli and Minchie, right? So that's the way to kind of look at it.
So I put down my marker, I guess, what was it, a hot take day? I think one of the hot takes day. I said Tyler Buchner is going to be the story of the spring. And then I laid out my reasons for that. And part of it is he doesn't have to worry about being the guy. He doesn't have to worry about, holding on to a job or looking a certain kind of way. He can just go play. And I think that's what's happening, right? And my thing is, and I think, whether or not there's a quarterback competition or whether there isn't, in my opinion, that stuff kind of gets overblown. Any player can make the coaches play them. They can, right? And whether it's the quarterback or not. And that goes for Sam Hartman too. Sam Hartman can go out there and kill it and just basically just like, okay, he has to be the starter. He's just playing that way. And I think Tyler Buchner can too. I don't know how that works in terms of like if they both go out and kill it, what does that look like? I don't know. I just think that Tyler Buchner can make them play him. I think he can, just like any other position. And so to me, the whole thing is just super encouraging. People are always talking about Tyler Buchner. Is he going to go in the portal? Is he going to do these other things? I don't think he should. I don't think he will. Doesn't really make sense to me for him to do that. He has 3 years of eligibility left. Last year did not count for him because he'd only played in the 3 games. So I just think he has 3 years to go, continue to grow, continue to be in this offense. And I think him coming out and playing well bodes well for his future, bodes well for Notre Dame's future. My personal opinion is, as of today, I don't think it's super like if you were to ask me today, I would say sell. I don't think he can, I don't think it's plausible. But if this continues, and he keeps building and he has a great spring game, what can you say?
I mean,
right?
I don't even think it's a spring game, but it's just
But
it's over the course of these months. And
what I mean is like not just the spring game, but like at some point the fan sentiment is going to start to turn a little bit, and that's when it starts. And I think there is a public. The public does create momentum for things, I guess, in a way that it becomes viable from like, okay. Like, so without it, let's say without it, he didn't have like a good spring or any of those things. Like there wasn't the juice. And then it's like, for some reason, Notre Dame decided we're going to start him. Well, that's a big thing, right? Like that, the fans that would be a negative reaction. Whereas now it's like, if the fans see him come out and play well, like Ian Book, right? Ian Book had really good springs. He had a really good spring in 17, really good spring in 18. People were not against the fact that like, hey, he could come in and play. Like when they made the move for Wimbush, it was like, hey, let's get Book in there, right? And I think people would not be adverse to that because Tyler Buchner has looked good so far. And then if you guys goes a good spring, I think people would be more accepting of that should a move happen in the fall. That's kind of what I mean. James, or no, I'm sorry, this is Rajon. James Lawrence Zensi says, I think it's better for Buchner to learn another year and be a 2-year starter after Hartman. Perfect timeline role for Carr to take over after him as a sophomore. I do agree with the first part. The second part is figuring out like the quarterback kind of dominoes at this point. We should not.
It's just, yes.
Because I think Angeli might be good. I think Minchie might be good, and I think we think Carr is good. So after that, it's who knows, man. I think they have a really good room right now, generally.
I mean, just look at – I think they do have a good quarterback room right now. This is probably the deepest quarterback room it's been in a while. I will say that, yeah, like in a few years, you just never know. You just never know. Everyone would have said, oh, Phil Dracovic was set like right after Ian Book. Then that's going to happen. Things change. It's always fluid. You never know what's going to happen. And also guys get into campus and it's like some guys do well and some guys don't. And then some guys, it's not always like a linear progression. Right. Yeah. So you just never know. Like it's funny too, because, Gino Guidugli said, when he was interviewed last week, he said that Steve Angeli's been phenomenal this spring, right? He's been phenomenal. Well, he was not phenomenal on Saturday, right? He was not phenomenal. So, and that's just something that I mean, it's one day, right? But it's something like you never know, right? You never know, and you never know how things are going to progress. And I think you look at, okay, so right now, Georgia, they're going through something where it's like, it's going to be a thing where kind of Notre Dame is probably going to be next year, right? Where they have two guys, they have three guys basically. Two of them are very highly rated guys, and the other guy was fairly rated too, but he was not quite the same. But he's the kind of more veteran guy, and it's like there's this competition to do that, and it all kind of depends because so if the one guy wins the job and he's a sophomore and then he lights it up, well, then that guy who's the redshirt freshman is out, right? He's probably going to be out. But then what if, Gunnar Stockton, who's the redshirt freshman, what if he wins the job? Then everything gets flipped around and you just never know. And I mean, you can also look at Georgia and how that went with the Justin Fields situation where in reality, they probably should have, they weren't going to replace, sorry, his name escapes me right now. The kid who beat Notre Dame twice. But, yeah. But,
I know you're talking about.
But he was like a 5-star kid, and he was like the guy who was good. But, I mean, he wasn't Justin Fields good. And Justin Fields left. And that's just kind of how you never know. Because you could have thought, okay, well, Fields will do this, and he'll just stick around, and he'll just keep building up. You just never know. We never know. So that's why, too, there was somebody who asked a question at Power Hour yesterday talking about, well, do you think Buchner is going to stay after this spring or whatever? And it's like, yeah, well, I think he is, but I mean, anything can happen. Like literally anything. Yes, it's Jake Fromm. James. Yeah. But like anything can happen during this time. We don't know. There's going to probably be after the spring, people are excited about that might decide to leave. That happens. That happens in college football because they think that they're not going to get a chance or they're stuck behind something or they just want to change. And that happens all the time. And we'll just you got to kind of adjust as you go. The thing is right now is that at least they have a quarterback room that's good enough that if someone decided to leave, I don't think they're in a horrible spot.
Yeah, I think they're in a good place there.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Chris Tyree is viable. Buy or sell. Chris Tyree is viable at wide receiver.
I mean, if I'm just going to base it just on the day that he had, then I'll say no. Because he did not. So sell. So I think he did not have a great day. He got open fine. Thought he looked good running routes and stuff, but he didn't have a good day catching the ball. It's not all the throws were. I mean, certainly not a lot of throws on the money to him. That was true. But sometimes you got to be able to catch bad balls, right? And so, he hasn't really had to deal with that because he is, it's a whole different game, right? Working as a slot and then getting some of like the check down stuff or even some of like the screen stuff that you're going to get as a receiver. So it's a totally different game. But in saying that, like some guys just kind of have that natural ability where they can react and whatever. So it's like, I think he really needs to work on it and have like a bigger catch radius than he showed. And if it's not, then I'll put him in sell. It'll be interesting with him because I think he looks fantastic athletically, not a surprise at all. But he was one of the guys I thought he stood out as he struggled the most catching the ball.
Yeah. I mean, I think people don't like, you need reps catching passes and not just like if you're doing, the running back stuff, right? So you're catching a flare route or you're catching, some sort of swing route or screen or whatever. Like that's one thing, right? You're good at that. But how do you catch it when it's like I'm running a corner route? How do you catch it when I'm running like a dig or some sort of in, or you're working on a curl? It's just like that's where it's like you do need to figure out like how do I want my hands? Where do I want my hands? Is this a body catch? Is this a hands catch? Do I need to get it out? Right? Like those are things that he's thinking about while he's running routes.
Yeah.
So it's just there's a lot mentally there. It's very hard for him. And the other part too is like so you get a guy like Kyron, right? Kyron Williams played a lot of slot in high school. Aeneas Williams is coming in, a lot of slot in high school. right? So that's why when we show clips of guys in high school and they're in the slot, and it's like, oh, he can be a slot guy. It's like Jabron Payne is another one. He played slot in high school, right? And he had a little clip that we saw that where he was running, routes that looked good. I thought he ran a good looking route. When you have that in your background, it's like, okay, well, we know you've had reps doing this. We know you've had reps catching the ball. That translates more. Chris Tyree is a lot more difficult. His body type and his skill set athletically fits, but he hasn't done it. He didn't do it in high school, and now he's a senior going into senior year, and he's got to learn to do that. So that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, so Rajon said he's probably inconsistent route running. I mean, that's not something that I saw with him. I don't think it's anything with that. I think it's just, when you got to be able to, and it's something that I think you would see with Lorenzo Styles too, right?
I mean, ball skills.
Yeah, ball skills, that's a thing. That's a reason why you say ball skills. And everyone just thinks it's like ball skills and it means like high pointing the football or making these amazing catches. No, it's being able to catch balls at like, this ball's thrown in your back hip. Can you catch that and still run, whatever, right? Like while you're running full speed and be able to catch that, right? And I'm not saying that's an easy catch. It's a tough catch, right? It's a tough catch to make. But I mean, that's part of the job. You got to be able to catch that, and you got to be able to be consistent with it. I mean, to be fair, none of the receivers were really making those types of catches on that day. So, but that's something that separates guys. Where even if you see, and I know it's only just like Rico Flores, he shared like these 2 clips of him making these catches in practice, right? And whatever, you see these 2 clips and you're like, wow, I mean, they were impressive catches. You see him on the sideline, you see him body control, whatever. But some guys already kind of have that, and naturally. And that's not to say that he's for sure going to be a guy for Notre Dame this year. But when you can see he already has some of that. And when you already have some of that, I mean, it helps.
So James Lawrence Senzi says, I think this is a move to have him transfer. We have the numbers at wide receiver and running back. I don't think that's true. I don't. I think it's a move to utilize a skill set that he has that no one else really has, like at running back. Like Jadarian Price might get it. He's not practicing right now. I think Jadarian Price, I think people need to be prepared for I think people need prepared for the fact that he won't be much of a factor this year. Maybe he will, right? I don't know. And I don't want to say that he can't. He's not.
It wouldn't be surprising, though.
He hasn't played for a very long time. He's not working out now. He's not in pads. He's in the pit all the time. It's not going to be till summer. I think he's going to need a year to get back into football condition, frankly. Like, he's very fit, but there's a difference between like being a fit guy and playing football, right? And look, Logan Diggs is out right now, right? Just dealing with whatever. Like, I think it was a hamstring.
Yeah.
If you get one injury to Logan Diggs or Audric Estime, and then it's like, okay, it's Jabron Payne at that point who hasn't played, right? Whether we like him or not, he had a nice run in the team session on Saturday, and that looked really good. But he hasn't played. And you have Jeremiah Love, who's a true freshman. You don't know where he's going to be at in terms of understanding the playbook. Chris Tyree is probably the best blitz pickup guy on the roster. That certainly has utility. So I just think that I think there's still going to be a role for him at running back. If someone gets hurt, he's going to get a lot of work there.
The other thing is spring. This is what spring is about. It's about experimenting and all this. And the other thing is like Tyree has a skill set. He has unique speed. Speed. So Notre Dame has to find a better way to take advantage of that. And that might be with him as a slot. And maybe it won't be. Maybe they'll do this experiment and he'll be like, I don't want to do this. I want to play running back or whatever. Maybe whatever. You should never know, right? You never know until you do it. Maybe that was just one practice and whatever. And he's been fine this whole time. We don't know. But I will say, like, I think it's about improving and using all these pieces on offense. You don't want to have Chris Tyree on your team and be like, man, we really didn't use him enough. Or like, I can't believe we didn't get any explosive plays from this guy who runs in sub 4.40. Like, that's a you problem. That's not a him problem, right? So you got to be able to find that kind of thing. So I I think that's what it's about mostly. I mean, like I said, with the thing, we don't know whether anybody transfers. People can transfer all the time, right? Like, anyone could just decide to go. But I don't think that was they're not doing that with the intention of him to force anybody to transfer. Like, even if you look at it right now, like, they're totally fine with scholarships. Like, they're going to get down under 85. So why would they try to be like, hey, get out of here, to a guy who could actually help the team, who's made plays in college football, who's like had a 98-yard kickoff return? Like, that makes zero sense why they would be able to do that. So that's just pure speculation.
Yeah. Able Gaming says Tyree's problem is he can't break tackles. I do think that's a weakness of his. And so that's why put him in a situation where he doesn't have to break a bunch of tackles,
Yeah.
Give him the ball down the field, and then he's already down there. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. Buy or sell? Tobias Merriweather, wide receiver 1, Jamie.
I mean, I'm going to buy it. I mean, it's certainly not based on what, he did on the day. He didn't have like a great day, much like no one really did. I thought he showed some flashes and stuff, which were exciting. But everything I heard when I was there, when I was talking to Matt, and what he's heard too, like, he is having a breakout spring.
Yeah.
He is having a breakout spring. I think when you look at that, and then you also look at the fact that, and I don't know if you're doing a buy or sell Caleb Smith later, but Caleb Smith, I don't think he's having a good spring. I haven't heard good stuff about it. Certainly the fact that he was
concerning, Jamie. It's very concerning.
It is concerning. And it's not to say that he can't come back from it, but he certainly doesn't look anywhere close to him being a wide receiver 1 for Notre Dame. Right. So if that's the case, it's not to say that he can't find a role or can't help the team or whatever, but he certainly doesn't look like a wide receiver 1. So someone would have to be a wide receiver 1. And I think Tobias Merriweather, based on everything I've heard about him this spring, I think he's got a good shot at it. He's got a good shot to make that big, big jump.
Yeah, I'm such a believer in this. I think it's coming. I think it's happening. I think he's motivated for it. That's the thing. He wants it, and he wants it bad, and he's going to get it. It's almost like just, I don't want to say math, but it's like it's kind of a math equation in terms of like, no one has his size, no one has his speed, no one has his route running. You're dead to basically, for anyone who wants his spot, you're dead to him dropping passes or not knowing the plays, and he's going to know the plays. So it's just like, you have to hope he drops passes. And I don't think that he's going to do that. I think he's a good wide receiver. He's not a big drop guy in high school or anything like that. Hasn't been a problem. He has a skill set no one else has. He has a size that no one else has. He's gonna do it. And the fact that he's motivated, it's just math at that point. I think it's gonna happen for him. I'm the same with you as far as Caleb Smith. You're a 5th-year senior, and you're out there like losing reps to Ryan Barnes. With no shade on Ryan Barnes, hasn't played in major college football. That's a concern. That shouldn't happen. Yeah. Unless Ryan Barnes is just having like a huge breakout. And I don't think that's the case either. So I don't like it. I don't understand really. Maybe there was a lingering something at Virginia Tech. It's just a slow start for him. He didn't get the chance to work out as much in the off season as he would have liked to. Maybe there's something like that where he just got to catch up to speed athletically. This is a guy who got behind defenders in the ACC, right? And look, it's a good conference. It's not like it's not. So
I mean, Matt, as Matt kind of pointed out, he caught a touchdown on Ben Morrison in the red zone where it was like Ben Morrison had pretty much perfect coverage and he went up and got it. So it's like, it's not like he didn't do anything, right? But just the fact that he was, when they were in team going 11 on 11, I mean, he was with the 2s and the 3s.
I think Deion Colsey's going to start at the boundary.
I
as of now, I think that's
as of today. I think you'd say that, right? So, and also too, the fact that it'd be one thing if you're like, okay, they don't want to like kind of like anoint the new guys.
Yeah,
like they don't want to just whatever. But why is Javonte Jean-Baptiste already like, it's pretty clear Javonte Jean-Baptiste, like he's going to be a huge player for Notre Dame this year.
Yeah.
And was running with the ones in sub packages in the regular, like he's going to play a ton. So that's not the case. It's not like transfer, you got to earn it. Yeah, sure. You got to earn it, but that just shows he hasn't earned it. So, and plenty of time to whatever. It's like practice 6 or whatever the heck it was, whatever. Yeah. It's not plenty of time for him to catch up. But I mean, usually too, when a guy doesn't have kind of like especially when a guy who's like a 6-year guy and he doesn't have the kind of like physical traits that you're looking for, I think it's not going to, I wouldn't just say like, he'll figure it out, whatever. It's like, no, that's a question. No, it's a big question. And CFB Hertz mentioned sleeping on Jane Thomas once again. It's nothing to do with Tobias propping up Tobias. It's got nothing to do with Jane Thomas. Jane Thomas is going to have a good year. Didn't have a great day, whatever. Like I said, everybody didn't have a great day. But I mean, I think Jane Thomas we know Jane Thomas is going to play a huge role for Notre Dame. So I wouldn't worry about that at all.
Everyone needs a wide receiver too. That's fine. I just think Tobias is. He has.
I don't know. Jane Thomas might be wide receiver 1 too. I'm just saying from what I've heard, Tobias Merriweather is having the best spring out of any of the receivers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Westward Manor Films. Why would coaching staff decide to work on brick packages all practice on the one day that the media is invited to watch? There's no way the O-line has gelled by practice 6. They got to work on stuff.
Yeah, they're not doing anything specifically for the media. That's for sure. They don't care about whatever, right? They don't care about that. They're doing what they need to work on, right? They're working on what matters. They're not like, guys,
they only have 15.
They're like, hey guys, it's let's do inside run in the goal line just to give the media a show. No, they're not going to do that, right? So they're going to work on what they need to work on, right? So I guess they're at the point in time where they're like, we're going to work on these sub packages and we're going to work on third down stuff on offense and defense. And that's what the thing for the day. And they can't, if Marcus Freeman or the staff in general was making decisions based on, the media's here today, this is what we're going to show them, whatever, that would be dumb. They would be idiots. And I don't think they're idiots. So I don't think that's at all, what was going on. I think it's just that's what they were working on. And you know what? Some days, whatever, maybe you would have saw like a lot more from it. It just kind of worked out in that day where it wasn't a good day. I mean, I've been to a lot of practices over the years, and I've seen plenty of days where like the offense stunk or the defense stunk, whatever. And it's just like you just don't know. The problem is the only issue is that you don't get to go the next week to see another practice. So you don't get to see like, then the offense had the much better day. So that's why too, part of it is what you got to rely on, what you hear and stuff too. Like I said, like if you looked at that practice, I wouldn't have said Tobias Merriweather is going to be whatever, but based on everything I've heard, he's really, really having a great spring.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Next buy or sell, offensive line. Buy or sell, 2 first-time starters at guard.
I'm going to sell because I do think Andrew Kristofic is probably going to be a starter. And this is the caveat there is Kristofic was bad. He was not good in this practice. He really he got beat a lot. He got beat a lot, especially in 101s. Really, really struggled in 101s. And didn't have a great team session either. Wasn't horrible. It was better in team than he was in that, better in inside run and stuff than he was, in pass rush 101s. In saying that, Josh Lugg last year, was probably as bad or worse than Kristofic was
at this point.
Just in that we had, it was the exact same thing how they did last year. They had one open practice near the middle of spring practice where that we got to go to, right? It was actually the only padded practice we got to see the entire of all of last year. Cause when we went to the full practice in the fall camp, it was no pads, right?
Yeah.
So, that day, Josh Lugg, it was a day to forget. Like Howard Cross owned him, like repeatedly. Was just he couldn't block Howard Cross. It did not matter what was happening. Howard Cross was like unblockable that day against Josh Lugg. He struggled all day. And if you would have said that day, I would have been like, man, Josh Lugg, no way he's going to be the starting right guard. No way. Well, it turns out not only did he win the starting right guard job, he had a really good year. Easily the best he had played all in his entire career. Was he an All-American type? No, he wasn't. But he was still like significantly. I thought it was by far the best he's played, just overall in pass pro, in just against the run. Did he still have his limitations? Sure, but he was still solid. And then I thought as the year went on, he got better. I would have, if you would have had him pancaking Brian Breesy on your bingo card, I mean, then you're Nostradamus. Like no one would have predicted that. So, I think that's kind of the reason why I think like don't overreact to this one day where Krzysztof really, really struggled. And I mean, who knows? But I'm just going to say, based on that, what we saw in this practice, I'm not going to overreact to it yet. So I'm going to sell the first time starters guard, because the other thing is that, so let's say it's Carmody and Billy Schrauth, or Schrauth and Spindler, whatever. Right. I think Schrauth and Spindler both had some nice moments in the game, and they didn't look like there was a huge gap between them and Krzysztof. But on a day where Krzysztof really had a bad day, wouldn't you want there to be a huge gap for them in their favor, right? So, and there wasn't, right? There wasn't. Those guys were up and down, right? They had like, it was a total thing. It wasn't just Krzysztof. So, I saw some good things from them, but just not enough to say like these guys are for sure going to be starters. And, and I had heard that was like one of the best practices they had, right? They those guys are getting better, which is always obviously that's exactly what you want to kind of hear, right? That, Joe Rudolph's working on them. These guys are getting better. So we'll see where they're at the end of spring. But I don't think right now, I mean, I'm going to sell that either one of those guys is definitely going to be a starter. Could change by the end of spring, could change by the end of August, but as of today, so.
Yeah, I'm not, and to be clear, I think this is good for everyone. I don't think there's a time to really be concerned about the offensive line until the fall sometime. It's the new coach, new starters coming in. However it looks, it may not look great in the early beginnings, and that's fine, right? That's normal, right? I don't think anyone needs to have a ton of answers at guard right now, so that's fine. It's good. It's good. It's good stuff.
I mean, I will say, so prior to the 2021 season, and we didn't get access to that spring in 2021, but I had heard like the guards were atrocious in that.
Well, they were atrocious to start the year too.
Yes, so that's one of the reasons why they took. But that's one of the reasons they took Kane Madden. They were not good again in the fall, and they were not good again in the fall, even with Kane Madden was there. And it obviously they didn't really get it figured out till like halfway through the season, and even then they weren't like great, right?
Yeah.
So, call me in August, and we'll see where they're at in August.
Yeah. Buy or sell, Jason Onye, regular rotation player for the football team.
I think it's an obvious buy.
It's an obvious buy. Here we go.
I mean, it was an obvious buy. I think Prince Cully was the one who hyped him up last week as a guy who, he said they can't block him, right? And obviously, whenever anyone says it, they're always just kind of hyping their own guy, and that's his guy. They came in the same class together. I posted I retweeted the pic of him with a shirt off, celebrating during the lacrosse game. The guy looks like a big time dude at 292 pounds. And the other thing is, like, he played like a dude at times too. I mean, he's not like all the way there as this like dominant guy that I think is like definitely going to start.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw enough from him. First of all, he's already kind of in that group in the rotation and the top 8 guys, right? So he's there with, it's him, Rubio, Cross, and Mills inside. Those are the top inside guys. Tyson Ford, there's a gap between there. Saw some good things from Tyson Ford, but there's a clear gap between him and Onye right now.
Which makes sense. I mean, Onye's in his 4th year. He's going the senior year, I think it is.
So. Yeah, no, he's only in his 3rd year. He's only in his 3rd
year. Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's in his 3rd year. But because he was the first guy, he was a 2021 was his first
Got it.
year.
Okay.
And then,
Got it.
But, last year, when I saw him in the spring, he was a guy that looked raw still, but showed like just heart. You know what I mean? Like, this guy played hard. And so saw a lot of that again too. And then I saw pieces, the pieces start to come together for him. Mm-hmm. Like, he was disruptive on several plays, getting into the backfield. He looked great when single block. He held up pretty well. Thought he played with really good leverage against the double team. Wasn't perfect. There was one play where he kind of like, overextended a little bit and then got put on the ground by Tosh Baker. So it wasn't like the guy was perfect on the day, but overall he looked good. Like, he looks like he's definitely worthy of playing and being a rotation guy, and then maybe even pushing up towards that. And the thing is too, is that he can play one tech. So if you got him to play one tech and you got Rubio to kind of play one tech, and if they're happy enough, and if you see enough from those two, well, then that frees up Howard Cross to play 3 tech. Yeah. And then you got him and Mills at 3 tech, right? And then that all of a sudden makes you way better at 3 tech, right? So I think I think he was probably one of the more exciting developments. Had heard he's having obviously a good camp before that, and saw enough there that I think, he's going to be a regular rotation guy for sure.
And he has time to add even more weight if he's going to be that one tech, because look, if he's looking as like he does, he can add some beef, And so
he could easily be 300 by the time that, the season starts.
Yeah. So that's a huge development, I think, for the defense. All right. Buy or sell. True freshman will play a lot. A true freshman will play a lot in 2023.
I'm going to buy. And it's literally nothing based on what I saw on the thing, because even though I saw some good stuff from the freshmen, it wasn't enough that they were like, they weren't getting enough of the reps with the other, with the first and second team, that group to say like, oh, these guys are clearly there. There wasn't that guy, right? That was clearly getting the reps. So like Christian Gray, I thought he looked good. I was like really like what I saw from athletically, but I wouldn't say that he was like, oh yeah, he's going to play for sure based on where things stood with him right now. Right. And I do think he's probably going to play, but I couldn't say that just based off of that. I couldn't say like Flores and Greathouse definitely got a lot of reps, look good. Braylon James. And it's something we should probably have Drew Mentalk on the show on Thursday for him to kind of talk about it. Cause he was, Braylon James actually got a little bit more run with the top group than those guys, which was kind of surprising because everybody thinks that Braylon James is the least polished of that group. Maybe the most impressive athletically, but the least polished of that group. And so if he's already doing that, I think that's probably a good sign. I think those receivers are going to play. I don't know if all of them, but there's going to be at least 1 or 2 of those guys that plays and plays a decent amount, right? Plays a decent amount. So I really like, I think Rico Flores, he looks good. Greathouse looks good. Braylon James certainly just, man, he's a super impressive athlete. I think Notre Dame really hit on those guys, and that's exciting.
Yeah, that's very good. The thing with the receivers that I think people don't really maybe they do. I don't know. It's one thing to play as a receiver because people, it's so like any other position, right? Whether it's running back or whether it's D line or linebacker or whatever. If you're out there, then it's like it counts, right? Well, Jaden Mickey's out there a bunch. He gets 20 snaps. All right, that's good, right? That's great, right? If a linebacker's out there, right? Prince Colley, or just like last year, where it's like he's out there for 2-3 series. Okay, good. Same thing with Junior Talamaka. It's like, all right, he's playing. That's good. A receiver, they have to like be productive. People don't want like Tobias gets out there, right? And this was my whole thing with like going way back to like Notre Dame plays freshman receivers. When they played Chris Brown. Oh, what was his production though? How many passes did he catch? Right. And it always went back to the number of passes they caught. And it's like, well, there's only so many passes to go around. It's like, if you want a guy to do numbers, well, you got to be, you got to be Michael Floyd. Right. Like, and that is a rare thing. Right. And I don't think people take that into account. I can see all these freshmen playing at wide receiver, but is any of them going to catch? Like, if I said the over under at 9.5 catches for any of the freshman receivers, what would you take?
I would probably take the over this year, but in a lot of years, I'd probably take the under.
What, for one of them, right? Like just for one, like you wouldn't take it for all of them, right? Because there's just not that many. If you have Tobias who's good, and you have Jaden Thomas who's good, and Lorenzo Styles who looks good, and Deion Colsey, and then you factor in Caleb Smith, like that's where, and then you factor in the tight ends and Chris Tyree and all these other things, right? And backs and Estime and Diggs, like there's not that many balls that get thrown, right? So it's hard to do numbers, right? So
they're not going to look for a freshman when you have Michael Mayer. That they're like, and in saying that, because he was a freshman who played a lot, but you're not going to look for, you're not going to call a play where you're like, yeah, we got to get a ball to this freshman here. That doesn't happen, right? Very often. Like that's not something that happens. So their numbers aren't going to be good because they don't, it's like in basketball, you're not like, all right, most freshmen, and even some of the guys that are like 5-star kids, whatever, they're not calling plays for guys. They're like, yeah, big man, you're getting all your plays on putbacks and whatever. We're not going to run pick and roll with you that much, right? Like that, and that's kind of the same thing with freshman receivers, right? They're not going to have too many plays. It's third down. They're like, man, we really got to get the ball to this person, right? Like even if you look at like say TJ Jones, who obviously played a lot as a freshman and contributed and did well. It wasn't like they were like, hey, here, no, we're not gonna try to get the ball to Michael here. We're gonna try to Michael Floyd. We're gonna try to get the ball to TJ. No, that doesn't.
Yeah. CFB hurts with some Kyle Hamilton slander in the chat that I'm not even gonna put it up. It just really hurt my feelings. CFB hurts. That hurts me. All right. So anyway, let's move on to the. I think this will be our last one. Clarence Lewis, buy or sell? Top 3 secondary player for Clarence Lewis in 2023. Buy or sell?
I mean, I'll probably say sell. Just because and it's nothing against him. It's just that I think I would put, obviously Morrison, Cam Hart, and X Watts above him.
So it's interesting because I'm okay. You actually go through your logic, and then I'll.
If you want to say it's close with X Watts, that's fine or whatever. But I do think X Watts looks like now X Watts doesn't look like, oh man, this guy just like free playing around. Like he looks like a guy who's like, oh man, he knows where he's supposed to be. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I think he got like a new, whole new sleeve of like tattoos. Guy looks like a badass out there. He was wearing the hood. I think he had the hood under the thing. I'm like, man, this guy just looks the part. And but he really actually, like, when you just watched him out there, he just looked like a veteran now. He looked like a veteran. And we know that what he can do and do well. And I think when you have that understanding of things, and like they didn't throw the ball deep a lot or whatever. So, it wasn't like he was like super tested in any way there. But I just think he's obviously taken a step. And then obviously Hart, you can't really he
Yeah.
or so. But I do think Cam Hart, like, don't sleep on Cam Hart. Don't sleep on Cam Hart. And I think Morrison obviously looks awesome. So in saying that, Clarence Lewis looked really good in the nickel. He looked really good.
Yeah.
I thought he was like, his recognition on stuff, he was like all over stuff. He really looked confident. And I mean, he's another guy. He's a veteran, right? He's a veteran. And where he played a bit, obviously he's a guy who can blitz a little bit too. I really like what I saw from Clarence Lewis. And if it I'm not going to say he can't be a top 3 secondary player by the end of the year, or he won't be. I'm just saying, as of today, I would probably put those 3 at him, and he would be 4th for me. But I mean, he's good. Like, he's a good player. Like, I think, and I think and I said, and I was saying to Mike when Mike was talking to me about him, I don't think you're going to be kind of what Bracey did, where some of them were, you'd say, okay, Bracey, you got downs, man coverage, right?
Yeah.
Where you're going to do that. I don't think you're going to see that as much with Clarence Lewis, because I would worry about like some of the vertical stuff with some of those guys and whatever. And if he can handle all those guys, who's like an elite slot one-on-one. But I think most of the stuff he's going to be able to handle well. And I think he's a guy who finds the football and is a good tackler and stuff. So I think it's a good fit for him. Plus, there's also Thomas Harper, who, obviously he's hurt right now, but he's obviously going to be very much in the mix at nickel too. So,
yeah, I think Clarence Lewis, he's a big senior year bump guy. Like, sometimes the guys just get into senior year and they just kind of figure it out. And the thing with Clarence Lewis too is he's played a ton of ball, like you said. He's very experienced, and he's played some dudes. He's played some real teams, right? Like he played against Devontae Smith in Alabama, in that in the Cotton Bowl, right? He played in the ACC championship game. He played against Ohio State last year. He played against USC last year, right? Like, he has played some very, very good competition. He played against the North Carolina team, right? Both in 21 and 2020, right? He came in for Tariq Bracey when he kind of fell out of favor, right? So there's nothing you can show him now that's like, oh, that scares me. Because, like, he's seen kind of everything, right? The guy covered Marvin Harrison Jr. last year, like, you're not getting better than that. So I think for him, it's just like, you go into your senior year, it's like, okay, this is my last chance.
It's a lot like DJ Brown.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I'm good there. I do agree. Like, he's different than Bracey in that Bracey was always like a sticky man guy. He was always there. And Clarence Lewis has struggled in that area. But I think just from a recognition standpoint, like you said, I'm really high on that. I love to hear about Xavier Watts, as you know, right? I love that. That's tremendous stuff. But there hasn't been a ton of chatter about him. And look, if you're not going deep, right, and if that's not happening in practice, then that's great, and you don't want deep balls, and you don't want things going over the top of you, especially when you have Sam Hartman and Tyler Buchner slinging the ball around. So that's great stuff. Yeah, I super high on the secondary as a whole. It's really good. It's nice to hear. And Chris Wawarka, I would say go to look up Power Hour from yesterday. The guys talked a lot about recruiting yesterday. Chris Wawarka brought up he was asking about recruiting news. Check out Power Hour from yesterday. The guys talked about that a lot. Matt had some really good information on Power Hour about that yesterday, so you're gonna want to check that out. You can find that on Apple Pods and all those other things. So yeah, I think we'll leave it there, Jamie. I think we had a good rundown of the practice. Really good stuff from Irish Sports Daily, like great coverage and everything. Go to irishsportsdaily.com. Check out all the write-ups. Andrew Mentok was there looking at the offense. Jamie was looking at the defense. Matt had his own stuff that went up, and a lot of player interviews and that sort of thing. And stories are going up pretty much daily from all those things in the interviews. So check those out. Check out our podcast feed. The link is in the links are in the description below on the YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Follow our show on the podcast links. Leave us a rating and review. All right, a lot of good stuff. We're going to plan a show where we go over the ratings and reviews and that sort of thing, because we've gotten a good amount. So thank you everyone for tuning into that. And Jamie, we're going to be later. So public service announcement. We are going to be a little bit later on Thursday. We're going to have a later show because I've got my daughter's getting an award for her elementary school.
Oh, all right.
For that. Yeah. So she's getting an award. So I got to attend that. So we're gonna be a little bit later. So yeah, we're gonna have a good show on Thursday. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you on Thursday.